logged into the system, and as you can all see now, we have a brand new menu which incorporates a pretty slick new dashboard into the system. So myself, playing the role of Nancy Smith, has logged into the Mac system, and right off the bat, you can see this brand new fresh menu. So first of all, I just wanted to kind of point out some of these new areas included in the actual dashboard. So the dashboard consists of a whole collection of widgets. So right off the bat, I can see that I have one visit scheduled for today, so I can jump right into that visit. I can see I have one visit that I've already started previously and that I've paused. So I have this Start a Care admit visit, which I can jump into. And also related to this paused visit, we can actually see that I do have a remaining Start a Care assessment that's out waiting to be signed. The goal with these widgets and with this dashboard was really to bubble up important information for the user right as they get into the system. So you don't have to go search through scheduling to see what you have to do today, or you don't have to remember what visits you have paused. We wanted to bubble that information up front and center. Now another really interesting new section in the Mac system is a messaging system. So as you can see down here at this bottom left, we actually have an unread conversation widget. And as the name implies, these are just conversations that I haven't read yet. So you can see I have a note coming in from Don back at the office. And you can see I have another note from another provider who I'm going to cover a visit for. So to get a little more information, let's jump into messaging. And when I jump into messaging, you can see how the messaging section actually gets injected into the clinician's workspace. So right off the bat, we have our dashboard with a quick overview. And if you want to jump into a section, it's just a click away, and you can pop right into that section. So this is messaging. This is the conversation section. And at a very kind of high level view of this is messaging consists of a group of conversations, and each conversation consists of a group of messages. So as you can see here, this first message is from Rhonda, and she's thanking me for covering a visit. And I'll get to that visit in a little bit. But the key takeaway here is really to see that this is a group conversation amongst Don and myself and Rhonda, and we're all working together and just communicating about what's taking place today. So this next message I have is a message from the office. It's Don reminding me to finish the Start a Care visit. So he's like, hey Nancy, make sure you get this Start a Care assessment taken care of so I can get the order created. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump right into that Start a Care assessment. So I'm going to come back here to the dashboard. And again at the dashboard, one of our new widgets is this Pause Visits widget. And what this is a visit I had previously started and paused. And now I want to actually jump back into that assessment and complete that assessment. So how I do that is pretty straightforward. You just select that paused visit, and then you click Resume Visit. And a couple things happen. When I click Resume Visit, you'll see, first of all, up here at the top, you'll see that our patient has actually been added into the user patient bar. So up here at the very top, as a user, you'll always have your tab here. So if I click back here, you can see this is what we were just looking at. And every patient I open up actually gets injected into your view, into your user patient bar. So I'm going to jump over to Harold here, and I'm going to see that we have a resume visit dialog. And basically all this is saying is, Dave, you're ready to resume that visit, and I'm good to go. So I'm just going to hit resume visit. There's other details you can tweak in here, but I just want to jump right in. And now we have an active visit. So I've resumed the visit, and now that visit is active. So I'm going to get into the actual assessment that I want to complete. And first of all, when you're inside this patient view, you can see our patient right here. And when I click into that patient, you have access to all these different areas for that particular patient. Everything we look at from this menu is for this one patient. In this case, I'm going to jump into the OASIS assessments. And if anyone's familiar with our current system, this is kind of the equivalent of the record list. Well, instead of navigating to record lists and then jumping into assessments, I went straight to assessments, and that injects the OASIS assessments list right here into our workspace for this particular patient. So let's see, here's my Start a Care assessment. So I'm going to pop that open. And when this loads up, you'll really see kind of this new format of documentation that we worked so hard with Arlene to put together. And I'll do kind of a quick overview for anyone that's not really familiar with this format yet. But generally speaking, this entire page here, this entire window that we've opened is the Start of Care assessment. And you can really easily and clearly see that from up here at the top that we're doing the Start of Care assessment for our patient Harold Brockenway. And you can see that I'm playing the part of Nancy Smith today. Now under that, along this left side, this is a thing we call the go-to sidebar. And long story short, with the go-to sidebar is these are just the pages that are included in this particular document. So when we get into a nursing note in a little bit, you'll see that the pages are a little bit different. But no matter where you are inside the assessment, you can have quick access to all the different pages. So this go-to sidebar on the left is really what controls what's being displayed over here on the right side. So as I click through these different pages, you can see as I change pages in the go-to sidebar, what's displayed right here inside our assessment area is actually updated. So we can just work our way through the assessment and get a feel for what's included in the assessment and also a feel for where we are as far as the assessment goes. So these two sections really work together, and that's where a bulk of your actual assessing and your narrating actually all takes place. This right column is something that's kind of interesting. What it is it's an integrated plan of care section. So as I'm completing the Start of Care assessment, as I'm working my way through all these pages, I can actually add problems, goals, and interventions directly right here inside the documentation. I don't have to jump out to look at different sections. I can just add these things as I go. And that's really handy because as issues pop up or as you're doing the assessment and you notice different items that would be great interventions, you can just quickly add them directly right here to this view. There's some other sections in the view. What we're looking at now are goals and interventions. The way we group our goals and interventions is we have a problem, goal, and intervention hierarchy. So you can see that represented here, where the problem is blue and the goal is yellow and the intervention is orange. These items are kind of built up and they're used to really help build that plan. We also have another section over here where this is where you can actually enter different safety measures and nutritional requirements and functional limitations and all these other really important sections that are included on the plan of care. Now, in the same way we wanted to pull goals and interventions to be front and center when you're doing the assessment, we really wanted to make all these items really accessible. So as you're going through your assessment, if you see something that's going to affect the nutritional requirements, you can jump over to these nutritional requirements. Do you have anything to add just as far as why we're formatting these boxes like this, Arlene?
Well, one of the things I think that's important for everyone to understand is that in the past we've been documenting backwards. And part of it had to do with the way CMS designed the 45 plan of care, and we're always thinking about the goals after we think about the intervention. Logistically, in using nursing process or the problem-solving process, you need to determine what your goals are, where you're going to go, before you can determine where you're going, how you're going to get there. So we've designed not only the assessment, the note for all disciplines, but also the plan of care. You'll see that it follows that logical thought process as opposed to the reverse where you determine your interventions and then you try to fit the goals in. So I think that's important for people to see that this is a logical way of thinking process that nurses and therapists will be forced to use their critical thinking skills in doing their documentation.
So jumping back to the eyes page, I just wanted to use the eyes page kind of to highlight kind of the general structure of many of these pages included inside the assessment. And kind of working from the top to bottom here, we have an area up top where we're actually kind of collecting base clinical assessment information. And these are kind of used kind of to spark your nursing narrative. So as you're assessing eyes, you can go through and start tagging these different areas that are actually issues with the eyes. And you can see stuff like history is also included up here. But also we have OASIS questions that are related to this particular page integrated directly into the assessment. So in this case, you can see that M1200 is baked right into the eyes page because you can answer that vision OASIS question as you're completing the assessment for the eyes page. And also something that you'll see over and over again in this new system is we have this narrative card. And every one of these pages actually includes a narrative card. And basically what these narrative cards are is they are no limit text fields. And the job of that narrative card is to give you space to give more documentation and more depth into the stuff that you collect up above in the actual clinical information, or help you expand on your answers for your OASIS question.
And I think it's good to point out here too that this is an area, and I'm sure those administrators and managers that are listening realize this is a place where you are found to have denials both with surveys. Surveyors are questioning why you did certain things, and also the denials through the contractors, CMS contractors. So David and Brandon and the other programmers here have done an excellent job of giving you an area to write as much as you need to write to explain why you documented your OASIS responses the way you did.
And also kind of the final part you see in this eyes page down at the bottom is this page completion section. And really what this is a way that you can get in and actually flag a page as complete. So you can flag it as being assessed, no problem found, assessed, problem identified, or not assessed. And really how this is used as a way, kind of as a reminder to make sure you have all the pages. So if I come up here and try to exit out of this particular assessment, you'll see this little overlay displays, and it says these following pages have not yet been completed. So you can see I need to look at eyes and cardiac and ADL and these other sections of pages before I can actually move on. Now what's also nice is you can still save and close this assessment. So maybe you're booted out of the house sooner than expected and you couldn't get all of that documentation done. You can still save what you've already entered, but the main difference is you can't actually sign your chart until it's actually been completed, until all these pages have been completed and all the different POC sections have been filled out. So with that being said, we kind of have an idea of stuff that I need to address. So I'm going to cancel my way back into the assessment, and we've looked at the eyes page here. So down at the bottom, I'm going to say, I assessed this, no problems found. And then just to tie this back with the overlay, you can see now that eyes is no longer on the list. So again, it's just a good reminder to know that, hey, make sure you get all these pages for the assessment. It's a great way to make sure you're not missing something as you go through the chart. So let's see, next I'm going to jump down to the cardiac page. And again, jumping to the cardiac page is just clicking the cardiac button over here in the go-to sidebar. When I click that button, you'll see that this area of the assessment is updated. So we have some cardiac assessment items, and we also have a nice big narrative card down here to fill out. This particular page doesn't actually have any OASIS questions. So this is just clinical assessment information and also narrative cards. So at this point, I just want to use this as an example to say, okay, I'm on the cardiac page. Now I want to add some, I want to add a goal and an intervention to my plan. So I'm going to go over here on my side over here, and I'm going to say, okay, I actually have a knowledge deficit problem. And so what I want to do is I want to add a new goal that relates to cardiac under my knowledge deficit problem. So I'm going to select knowledge deficit here. And if you look over here on the right side, you can see that we have a little button here to add a goal. You click the button and it pops up a nice little screen here. And basically what this screen does is it gives you access to all the support files your agency has put together for this particular problem. So in this case, you can see I can dig in and choose any of these goals. And again, support files are just customizable items that your agency can set up for quick addition to the plan of care by your clinicians in the field. So I can choose something from the list up here, but something else that's new in the new MAC system, and this is an option you can activate or deactivate, is if you don't have something in the list up here that you want to add, you can actually flag this checkbox down here, and that gives you the ability to actually add in a customized goal. So a customized goal is just something that you need to add for a patient, but it hasn't been added to the support file yet. So I'm just going to add in a quick goal, goal for cardiac knowledge deficit. So I've added this quick goal for cardiac knowledge deficit. And just like adding a goal in our previous system, you can set a target date for this particular goal. I'm just going to do the end of February for my target date. And I can also assign this to a particular discipline. At this point, I'm just going to keep it to skilled nursing. And what that means is for all the skilled nursing notes going forward, or the skilled nursing note assessments or evaluations, this particular goal will actually be included in the plan of care, listed on the right side of your screen. So I'm going to save this goal. And when I save this goal, you can see that this new goal I added is right down here. You can see this goal for cardiac knowledge deficit. And now what I want to do is add an intervention for this particular goal. And this is kind of demonstrating what Arlene was speaking of, with the idea of establishing a goal and then associating interventions to that particular goal. So to do that, that's just like adding a goal to a problem. I come over here and hit Add Intervention. We get up here in another screen where you can see all the available support files for that particular goal. But again, I'm going to use this Add an Intervention that's not listed option. And using this, you can get in and add something that's not included in your support file yet. So I'm just going to do example cardiac intervention, just so we can all see how this works. And basically, it's just a description that's actually included as that intervention. We have an intervention frequency, so I'm just going to say each visit. And this is actually the item that's included in that particular patient's plan of care. So what is a really good use for this? A really good use for this is helping your agency to actually build up useful support files. Because as different users get in and actually add these custom interventions into the patient's file, we actually bubbled up a new section inside the support file manager where you can actually see all the custom goals and custom interventions that have been added for different patients. And what that lets you do as an agency or as the team that manages the support file for your agency is you can get in and look at all the customized goals and all the customized interventions and kind of find patterns. And that can actually help inform what interventions you can add to your base support files. So it's a really good way to see stuff that people are needing in the field, and it gives you an opportunity to take that custom goal or take that custom intervention, generalize it so it can be used for any patient, and then add it into the support file for other providers to use for other plans of care. So with all that being said, on my cardiac page, I'm going to say, okay, this is good. So I'm going to flag this page as off. And I'm going to continue down the list. Let's see some other stuff I wanted to look at is I wanted to jump into the falls risk page. And as part of the falls risk page, you can actually see what we've done in the falls risk page is we've integrated the MACH-10 directly into the assessment. So as you fill out this particular assessment item, we actually calculate the score for you. So at this point, you can see all these answers actually resulted in a 6. And for me, this is at risk of falling. So what's really handy is we have this score right next to MOO 1910. And MOO 1910 is, asking if you did the multi-factor fall risk assessment. And at this point, it's obvious that we did it. So yes, we did do it. And yes, it does indicate a risk for fall. So we don't have to jump around to different pages or go find information elsewhere. We can really clearly, 1, complete the test, and 2, see the results of the test right next to the appropriate question. Also related to that, MOO 2250, the plan of care synopsis. This is one of the items that for the longest time has made its way to the end of the assessments. What we did with the new MAC system is instead of keeping that all at the end and making the clinician remember, did I create a falls risk intervention? Did I not create a falls risk intervention? We actually pulled that right out directly into the assessment here, where you can get in and say, yes, there was a risk. So yes, I am actually going to make an intervention. So I'm going to say yes and come in and quickly add an intervention. So I'm going to add an intervention for this particular item. And I'm just going to say another example, fall risk intervention. So some of the goals with this system were to really put relevant information next to each other and help the clinician answer the questions by not making them go dig around. We accomplished completing a test, and we answered the OASIS question for the test. and we answered the OASIS question related to fall risk, and we quickly added an intervention, all right here from this screen without jumping back and forth to get to these items. And again, like all the other pages, yet another page with yet another narrative card at the bottom. And the narrative card is really just there to expand on the information we've already collected in this page. So I'm going to say, yes, we assessed this, but we did identify a problem. So I'll tag that here, and I'll keep on going through the assessment. So the next part of the assessment is a totally new part of the assessment, but it's fairly powerful in the type of stuff you can collect from it. We're calling it the body profile. And basically what the body profile is it's just a body where you can track any number of different type of issues that a particular patient might have. So everyone that knows Arlene's documentation will remember our little character here that we've spiffied up a bit and integrated directly into Max. But what's really neat about this is how you can track an item on the body, and then how that item pulls throughout all the different discipline assessments and evaluation and notes going forward. So just for example's sake, I'm going to add an item. I have an ulcer that I'm actually adding right now. And so I'm just going to add this decubitus ulcer, which Arlene very thoughtfully trained me how to say. Thank you very much, Arlene. So I've chosen a type. And again, these types can be determined by your agency support files. So if you think of different things you want to track in this body profile, you can actually get into the support file and customize it until your heart's content to track what you all actually need to track. We took a shot at stuff we thought would be helpful, and that's what I'm using right now. So I've chosen a type, and I've also added a little location. And the point of this location is kind of to describe this item I'm adding to the body.
Oh, that's great. And that there's also availability, and Dave might be getting to that, to post a photo of the wounds at any time on the assessment and also on the notes.
Yeah, totally. So what I'm doing is I've added this decubitus ulcer, and I've given it some detail, give it a name and a location that's going on the body. And now the fun part, I guess, is I'm actually going to pin it on our little helper here. So the way the pinning works is just easy. You just click it and pin it onto the body. You can rearrange it if you would like. So now we've chosen a type, we've given it a location, and we're going to keep the effective date as today. And this next step kind of is getting to what Arlene was referring to, is now that we've added this item actually to the body profile, you can see that we have a nice big narrative card here. So we have a nice detailed narrative card where we can actually get in there and document details about this particular item. And like I mentioned earlier, every time you have a note going forward and every time a different discipline gets into their note, they have the option of actually getting in and documenting items on this particular location. So instead of generally documenting wounds, you're really very specifically documenting an item on the body, and it's a great way to be able to peel back and track the history of that particular item. So in this case, I just added a little initial detail for this item. And this attach functionality, this is an extension of our external documents feature that some of you might be taking advantage of in the system. And basically what external documents are images and PDFs. So they can be snapshots of the body. They can be snapshots or documents on PDF that you can attach, and that's on each slice of that item for the body. We'll see this more as we go forward and look at different notes.
I think this is really helpful too, to point out here how beneficial this will be for coders with ICD-10, since we have to have such a high degree of specificity. The information is going to be right in front of them for things like not just for wounds, but also for fractures, for other things that they'll have to have specific locations for. So that this is going to make the coder's life easier as well.
I've also got a lot of questions with this. Is there a limit of how much stuff we can track in this profile? And there really is no limit. This poor character here can be completely riddled with body items, and each one of them can be individually documented as you work your way through the period. So that's a common question I've got, and there is no limit, much like there's no limit inside the narrative cards. So I'm going to keep on going through this assessment. I found this issue, so I am going to tag this as yes, this was assessed, but did identify a problem. But let's move on to medications. Medication should be also familiar to anyone taking advantage of our current system. We did do a couple tweaks to how we're handling these items. We actually broke medications and allergies out into their own individual pages as part of the assessment, just to make sure no one accidentally skipped one of these pages. But really what the medication profile is just a simple list of active medications for this particular patient. Now I'm just going to add a medication real quick. I'm going to get in, I'm going to add in, I always mess up spelling aspirin right, so good. I'm adding aspirin into this particular patient's profile, and you can see you can add dose, route, frequency, duration. You can choose the pharmacy or the prescribing physician. I'm going to do a pretty bare bones medication just for example's sake, but what's also kind of slick is we actually pull all our medications from the Metaspan database. So we have a kind of a medications database that we keep updated for you. And as part of that, we get two really slick benefits. The first one is we have access to really nice teaching guides. So as you can see now, I'm adding a medication, and if I want to do a little teaching on this particular medication, I can launch that from directly right here inside the system. And all these different medications actually produce some really nice, clean teaching guides that you can either leave at the home or prepare to take to the home before you go out on your visit. And again, that's just really a benefit of our actual, the Metaspan database that we're using. So I've added aspirin, and I'm just going to save it into the profile now. And as I save this into the profile, you'll really see the next benefit of our database and how our medication system works. You can see that when I added aspirin, automatically we scrub your medications and we found a potential interaction. So what happens is we have this nice red infected tab that pops up here at the top, and basically this tab is telling you that we've detected a potential interaction between some of your medications. So you can jump into this tab and actually see the detail of that particular interaction or that particular possible interaction. So at this point, it gives you the option to actually enter a response. Up here at the top, you can actually see the detail of what's going on with this particular medication, what the actual interaction is. And I'm just going to do a quick response, contacted doctor. Keep on medication. And really, this is just a simple way of documenting that you made the physician aware of this potential interaction and actually add it into the patient's chart. So I'm going to sign that and save the response. So when I save the response, you can see that I have cured the tab up here of potential interactions, and we're good to go. Now, this is a good opportunity to look at some of these new features in the Max Charting, which we call kind of the OASIS helpers. And you might have noticed on the medications page and now on the allergies page, we've lost our plan of care. We've lost that integrated plan of care chunk. It's not lost, it's just hiding for the moment. And you can actually pull it in by clicking the button up top. So again, as you can see, if you find goals or interventions as you're adding allergies or as you're adding meds, you can pop this open and add stuff right here. But what I really want to look at is actually these next couple steps, which is the helper and the verification. So the verification is really, it's a verification system based on Home Health Gold. And basically, Home Health Gold is what powers kind of our OASIS scrubbing mechanism. And we've had this for quite a while now as an element outside the assessment, but now we actually have it baked directly into the assessment. So as the clinicians are actually completing their documentation, they can reference this verification as they go. So let's see what's going on here. So you can see that I have a fatal audit on MOO-22. And as part of our kind of package of different OASIS helpers, you can actually see how we can use verification, and then we can use the OASIS search together. So these things are kind of working together. And the way the OASIS search works is the OASIS search really lets you actually kind of summon particular OASIS questions from your assessment. So I'm going to get in real quickly and say MOO-2200. And as I start typing MOO-2200, you can see that actually I get jumped directly to MOO-2200. So you can see this is my therapy need OASIS question. I can get in and give it an answer. For this one, I'm just going to do 000. And also, you can see that we have a specific narrative dedicated to this one particular OASIS question. And again, like all the other narratives, you can use this to really expand on the answers in your OASIS, the answers you're providing in OASIS, and giving some back to why you answered what you answered back at the time of the plan of care. So I've answered MOO-22, so I can refresh my verification, and you can see slowly but surely stuff is getting dropped off the list. This final little part of our OASIS helpers is literally labeled helper. And what this actually lets you do is it provides OASIS guidance information directly inside the assessment. So you can see I'm on the ADL, IADL page, and that page consists of a collection of all these different OASIS questions. And as you're in the field, maybe you have a question about 1830, how to accurately answer this particular question. Instead of digging through the internet or going to find some book, you can just pop open the OASIS helper and then actually peel open MOO 1830 right here. And you have direct access to the actual the guidance published by CMS for that particular question. So if we go to close out of the assessment now, you can see that our assessment has actually been cleaned. So we're good to go. All the pages have been completed. All the POC sections have been answered. And another thing that Arlene gave us some feedback on was moving the MOO 90 day, making that available from back here at the end of the assessment. So really, this is when I actually completed this particular assessment. So I'm going to mark that as today. And I'm also going to mark this particular chart as signed. So I'm actually going to jump back to my dashboard, or jump back to my dashboard up here, and I'm actually going to reply to the message. So this is how we kind of got into this. We have Don asking Nancy if she'll actually get in and complete that start of care assessment. So I'm just going to write a quick thing back to Don. Hey, Don, we are golden. Check out the start of care. So Don, back at the office, is actually going to receive this message and then be able to address the assessment. So the final thing I want to do real quickly, now that we've taken care of this assessment, is I'm actually going to, this other message we got from Rhonda, and this is Rhonda, she wanted me to cover her for a nursing assessment. So basically, Rhonda's asking me, hey, could you please look at this particular patient and do a nursing assessment for me? So first of all, when we jump back actually to our dashboard, this scheduled for today visit is what's included, has been scheduled for me to cover Rhonda. So to get into this visit real quickly, I'm going to select it from the schedule widget and hit start visit. And basically that pops a new patient open. It collects my start visit information. And with a couple clicks, I'm already inside the assessment. With those couple of clicks, I also have quick access to jumping into the actual nursing note. And I'm going to pull this up real quick. And this nursing note, you no longer have to go find it in the record list. You don't have to dig through stuff to actually find the documentation. We actually bubble it up right in front of you. But as you can see in this nursing note, generally speaking, we have the same type of format that we actually have in the assessments. We have the same idea of the integrated plan of care. So where you were designing the plan during the assessment, now you're actually working your way through the plan. So this is a way to keep information kind of the front of mind of the clinician as they're actually doing their visit. So you can go through and actually address interventions, and as they're addressing interventions, they get saved and are actually checked off on the list on the right side. So that's pretty handy and pretty slick. So finally, I'm running a bit over and I apologize. I'm going to hand this back to Kristen.
Okay. So I am going to log into the system as the Director of Nursing, Don. So we're going to jump into my dashboard, which is an agency-wide dashboard because I'm an administrator. All of these views are based on your system security. So since I'm an administrator, I can see all of my agency's scheduled visits for today. I can see all of my staff's paused visits here, documents not signed, and it looks like I have an unread message. So we're going to open that conversation. It looks like Nancy wants us to check out start a care visit. Okay, thanks. I'm going to post that. We're going to close our messaging tab there. And then we are going to jump into Herald. Herald. Open up Herald. Okay, so as you can see, Herald has opened at the top. And I am still logged in as Don Nelson, or AKA Kristen, I guess. Anyway, okay, let's open up, let's start a care assessment. Okay, since we trust Nancy, we are going to jump in and mark the OASIS complete. As you can see at the top OASIS column, it's listed as completed now. We're also going to mark the 485 as complete. Completed it at the top under the 485 column. We're going to create the final 485, which our attending physician is selected here. We're going to take a look at the print view. Here we go. It's going to pop open here. Let's make this a little bit larger so everyone can see. As you can see, this is the new Plan of Care print view. I really want to highlight the clarity of this document. We've made a couple adjustments in rearranging, really. You can see that the goals are now displayed before the interventions per some of Arlene's inspired input here. But the document is very crisp, as you can see, very easy to follow. Arlene, did you have anything you wanted to add to the print view?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to realize, too, that what you'll see here is the font is larger than many systems that we've looked at and that we deal with. One of the denials that we're seeing come across from some of the contractors is the fact that they can't read the font. It's blurred. The print is so small. They try to cram so much in a small space that the contractors are denying just because they can't read it. So that's one part of this. But I think that the really exciting part of this is that the clinicians and the office will be able to look at this entire, and I think at the clinician level, the clinicians will be able to look at this entire plan of care prior to submitting it to the office to determine whether or not they want the number of orders on that plan of care that they started accruing as they were going through that assessment. And that's important because what we've been finding with denials and with surveys is that there are orders, and I'm sure many of you can support this in your own agencies, there are orders that are in paragraph form, and there are so many orders written on a plan of care that it's almost impossible for some of these clinicians to follow. And it certainly is much more difficult for QA to do a quality assurance check to see if all the orders were followed. And for those of you who understand the sanctions and the triggers for sanctions for home care through survey now, the fact that you're not following every single order on that plan of care could be a determination for a sanction, either civil monetary sanctions or other sanctions the surveyor may determine.
All right, thanks, Arlene. Close out of this print view here. Since we're still in Herald, we need to jump in and schedule Herald a couple of visits. So let's first bring up the list view of our visit frequencies. And now let's also jump into Herald's calendar. Okay, so this is max scheduling. It does default to week view when you jump in. We are going to take a look within month view. Okay, I do want to point out these bars at the top of each week. These are our visit frequency bars. So this is really going to help you visualize the frequency and make sure that you are scheduling according to plan. I also want to point out that Nancy completed the Start of Care visit on the 13th. We have all of our SNs are listed as orange, but you can also customize your disciplines by color within your agency support files. Okay, let's get some scheduling done. Let's jump into the next week here on the 19th. We're going to select our day and add a visit. This is going to be an SN routine visit. Let's check out our filters here. You can filter by discipline, so you only see your agency's SNs, or you can also filter by scheduling zones to narrow it down a little bit. So these are our SNs available. We're going to throw it back at Nancy Smith there. We are going to start this visit, let's say at noon, to be completed at 1 p.m., and we're going to save it. So you can see Nancy has a visit populated for the 19th. You can see that the visit frequency bar here is green because you are within frequency. You can see you have 0 visits remaining for this week. But let's jump in to the 21st here and add another visit. This is going to be an SN routine visit, also for Nancy. Let's do it for 3 p.m. 3 p.m. Oh, already selected. Let's say we're going to be completed at 5 p.m. and save. Okay, since we did not have another frequency available for this week, we have 2 in the same week. We're only allowed 1, so you can see that this is red, indicating that you are out of frequency. Let's jump in the week view here. Okay, so this is an unneeded frequency. If it is needed, you can create an order if you would like, or we are going to highlight and we are going to delete the visit. We are sure we wanted to delete it because it was unnecessary. And as you can see, we are back in frequency here. So let's check out the following week and get another visit scheduled. We're going to say we want to do it at 3 o'clock here. We are going to add to the routine visit. Also going to be for Nancy. Let's say for 10 a.m. to be completed at 12 o'clock. We're going to save it. Oh, I did it in the morning. There we are at 10 a.m. Oh, you know what? I scheduled it for Tuesday. I want it to be on Wednesday. And I scheduled it for 10 a.m. Let's pull it up to begin at 9 o'clock to give them some extra time. So as you can see, it's very easy to go in and schedule your visits now. Let's take a look at the month view. Okay, we are all in frequency here. All of our frequency bars are green, so we are all set with Harold's schedule. A few things I do want to point out about scheduling is really just how easy it is to schedule and be sure you are within frequency. We save you a lot of clicks compared to our current scheduling system, which does tend to be a little more cumbersome. So we've really made it so much easier to use. These frequency bars really keep you completely on schedule, and I really just want to highlight the clarity of this new schedule. This is great. We're very excited about this. So we're all set for Harold for the day. So we are just going to exit out of Harold's tab, and now we are back to my agency-wide dashboards here. Our agency just received a call, and we have a new patient joining us. So let's do an intake patient. We're going to go to admission here. We're going to name our new patient Gordy Howe. Gordy Howe's social security number. We're going to give an MR number here. Let's give an AR number. This is going to be a home health patient, and Gordy is actually a pre-admit patient. We're going to admit the patient. Okay, and something I would like to point out, popped up on another screen here. Okay, this is our new one-page demographic intake, which is available with Max. We do still have available the classic full demographic for the agencies that would like the little longer demographic intake. I'm going to show you the quick demographic intake here. Okay, let's add an address for Gordy. We are going to put in a zip code. As you can see, when I entered that zip code, it did populate the city and also the state. Let's choose a county code here. We're in Calhoun County. Something else I want to point out about the demographic intake is any of your OASIS responses do carry over to the OASIS assessments, and also any of your demographic responses do carry forward to the patient's demographics as well. So we're not sure about directions to home yet. Arlene has prepared an initial physician order for us. So let me copy that guy over. Paste that guy in there. The verbal order date, we're going to say, is today. The requested start of care date is tomorrow. We're going to answer the homebound reason here, which again, Arlene has prepared one for us. Let me copy that in there. We also have a diagnosis that we're aware of. We're not sure about any of these other responses at this time, but we do have a narrative that we would like to add in. Grab our already prepared narrative over here. Okay, so we spoke to the patient's daughter, yada, yada, yada. They would like to plan on the visit for tomorrow at 4 o'clock. So this is all of the information that we're aware of right now at the time of intake. We're going to exit out where we're prompted to sign and complete. We are also going to save and close. So it looks like Gordy is going to need a start of care visit. So we are going to jump in and search for Gordy. There he is. Let's open up Gordy. Okay. Since our, within the intake note, we did enter a requested start of care date, we should have a placeholder. We are going to highlight and we're going to add that visit. Let's see, this is going to be an SN admit visit for Nancy Smith. You know what, in the narrative, they indicated that this patient did not want to be seen until 4 o'clock. So we are going to save the admission visit that we scheduled for Gordy here at 4 o'clock on Friday the 15th. So I think that was really all we wanted to show you for scheduling and for myself as an office user today. Just to sort of recap everything that Dave and myself have reviewed, we've showed you the latest and greatest to Max charting, which we're very excited about. We've showed you some new patient and clinician dashboards, along with the fresh menu and the new messaging system. And last but not least, of course, we have shown you the new scheduling system, which we're very excited about. So Arlene, before we jump into questions, did you have any closing thoughts for us today?
I think it's just an exciting time in the industry in general, and many of us hear negative things about how things are going with home care in the industry as a whole. And I think that, again, this revolutionary process and the way we document is going to be a way to correct many of the problems that agencies are finding now. We have value-based purchasing coming up. Some of the pieces in this documentation system is going to generate your clinicians to stop and think about exactly how they're doing their documentation and getting scores to where you need to have them. Again, we've built in many educational properties into the system so that not only will they be able to complete their assessment, complete their nurse's note, but they'll also be educated as they go along. The other thing I think you'll be able to see in this, if you've been in home care for a while, you'll be able to see the uniqueness of the assessment. In general, what I'm hearing from surveyors and what we're also hearing from contractors and also administrative law judges when we actually go to hearings is that many of the assessments that they're reviewing for either payment or for compliance are looking exactly the same. You can't tell one patient from another. This system pretty much forces the clinicians to make every single assessment a unique assessment. And again, to provide better care to their patients. So I think that's probably, Kristen, all I needed to add. I'm certainly available for any questions. Kristen has my email if you want to send her the questions that you might have. I'm happy to take a look at those and answer those for you and then get them back to you.
Okay, I think we do have just a couple questions before we wrap up here. The first one is, could you tell us again when the MAX system is available? Again, we do have some agencies that are utilizing it as an early release, but it will be available to all GLMI agencies on April 1st. Again, we're asking that all agencies contact us to reserve your activation dates, as we're only going to be doing so many agencies at a time. So if you're interested after today, please get a hold of us, and we will be sure to get you on the schedule and also start setting up your training as well.
I have a question, Kristen and Dave.
Sure.
Can this system, and I'm not sure, I think this is a good time to ask this, can this system, will you be able to take the information on the old GLMI system and just put it into the new MAX system, or is it going to have to be completely re-entered, the information about their current patients re-entered?
We have kind of a transition period, basically.
Okay.
So as you turn on the new MAX system and you're moving from the old GLMI system, we have two kind of thresholds of actually transition.
Okay.
We don't have a good way to pull all the existing data through,
okay.
But the transition happens during the recert.
Okay.
So if you're doing a recert on an existing patient, that's the first time we'll actually pull that patient into the MAX system, or any new admissions into the agency.
Okay.
So obviously, once the switch has been flipped, all new admissions flow over, and then existing patients pull over at the time of recert.
Okay. Thank you.
Good timing, Arlene. That was actually our next question, so we will jump to the next one. We have a few asking if training materials are available. Yes, we have lots of training materials available. We are going to post a recording of this webinar and also all of the available training materials to the GLMI blog. So be sure you're keeping an eye on your email and also the GLMI blog for the recording and all of our scripts available. The next question, this is a good one for Dave. Is there anything that my agency is going to need to do to get ready for the transition? You know, such as support files. What can be done at the time of transition or ahead of time?
Some stuff that you might want to do ahead of time is we revealed a new area inside service code that actually lets you link documentation to a specific service code. So when I jumped in and was starting that visit, right front and center we had that the patient schedule widget that gave me quick access to that documentation. To actually use that, you need to do a documentation link inside your service code. So that's one thing I'd look at doing. And another thing I'd look at is to kind of consider our new goals and interventions and that kind of philosophy of how we're now documenting on those. Kristen put together a real nice transition document that I think she has included with the training documentation bundle. So I would review that and kind of look at that as a guide, and it's kind of basically full of tips and tricks of how best to take advantage of the new charting system. So before you jumped over, I would look at those things and maybe consider doing some tweaks there. So that's all I can think of.
Okay, thanks, Dave. I know we had one additional question regarding the body profile. Can you add different things such as pain, soreness? How do you customize sort of that body profile?
That's all driven right out of a support file. So if you get into the support file manager, you'll have a nice way to just add whatever you want to the list. So when I was first adding that item to the body profile and I chose decubitus is an item inside that support file. So if you wanted to add soreness or these other type of items into the body profile, you can handle that using the support file manager for your agency. So it's pretty easy.
Okay, one final question here. Has the frequency format changed when adding?
Yeah, when we actually add a frequency now, we did a lot of work kind of streamlining the adding. So it's kind of a front end and back end of frequency. So on the front end, we really tried to make a very straightforward add overlay for adding frequencies. And it's really clean and very quick to easily add frequencies now. And the back end of that is we really wanted to kind of beef up scheduling and really integrate the two together. So the actual scheduling program itself helps you 6 of those frequencies. But yeah, there's a new kind of trimmed down actually view of frequencies. And who do I have open here, Kristen? I have somebody open, right?
I think that's Harold.
So I can jump into Harold and I'll just pull it open real quick so you can see. We have our add frequency list here, and these are the frequencies Kristen looked at. But if I were to go add another, you can actually see up here at the top, this is kind of the format we have for actually adding a frequency. So you can choose a discipline. So you could say dietitian 1 time a week for 2 weeks, let's say, just as an example, and then assign an effective date. So we did do a lot of work. We really streamlined this significantly. We think it's a lot more straightforward and a lot quicker to get frequencies entered into the system. So that's just a peek at the format of actually adding frequencies using the new MAC system.
All right, thanks, Dave. I think that's actually all the questions we have for today. Arlene, thank you for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
To all of our friends of GLMI, we thank you for joining us today and hope you found the webinar very informative. We hope you are as excited about MACs as we are. Again, please visit the GLMI blog to review the training materials, and this webinar will also be posted there shortly. Please be sure to contact GLMI to arrange your activation date, and if you'd like any additional information. Again, thank you for joining us today. We're excited about MACs. Hope you are too. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.